Hello guys and welcome to my new video. Today I decided to do a Resto Druid DPS guide. Seeing is that in patch 7.2.5 a lot of the healer's damage has been increased by around 25%, and seeing this big damage increase, I decided that a lot of Resto Druids should actually learn how to properly do a lot of damage in Mythic and Raid even content, and basically how to do it. There's not a lot of guides out there. There are a couple of ones that I'm going to include in the description of the video that helped me a lot to actually learn exactly how to best DPS as a Restoration Druid. And with the latest changes, you can actually pull some really good numbers. The first thing you have to do is you have to get Feral Affinity, because Feral Affinity is the best thing to DPS as a Restoration Druid. Now you might be saying to me, why the hell do I need to go to Cat? I have Intellect. Cats use Agility. The point is that all of your intellect, 100% actually of your intellect, gets converted to agility, and therefore your kitty becomes as strong as your healer in terms of items and things like that. The biggest and easiest way to maintain DPS is Sunfire and Moonfire. Sunfire and Moonfire are the easiest ways to do it, and Rat is the default DPS rotation, Sunfire and Moonfire. Now keep in mind that Sunfire will apply to targets in 5-yard range, so you don't have to apply it to every single target, while Moonfire you kind of have to do it. But this is the easiest way to do DPS. Now keep in mind again, Solar Rat is actually really quite weak, and it's not going to do too much damage, but it is one of the easiest ones. And for specific affixes, where let's say Quaking right now in this week, melee are not very super friendly in these kind of dungeons, so having a ranged DPS is probably preferable. But if you actually want to maintain a really good DPS, you have to maintain Moonfire and Sunfire, and besides that you need to shift to your kitty form. In cat form you basically have all of these spells is what you really need to have to do a decent kitty DPS. So you have your Rake, which is basically the open or bleed effect. You can start off, if you read the description, it actually says, while stealthed, Rake will also stun the target for 4 seconds and deal 100% increased damage. So if you have time in your Mythic dungeon, you can go into stealth before the boss, go to the target. It is recommended to actually use Potion of Prolonged Power before doing it, because it's actually going to increase your agility. It's actually going to increase a lot of different stats. It's actually the best potion to use. You go into the target and you press Rake. This is my stun effect being applied. Now you actually see that there's the bleed effect already running on the target. You do not want to press Rake again, because it is actually going to override the previous Rake, which is dealing 100% extra damage because of your stealthed starter. So you want to just kind of let it run out and then kind of apply it if you really want to go optimizing. So the default rotation is applying Rake first. Shred is your filler spell, which you use until you get 5 combo points. Shred also, its damage is increased if the target has a bleed effect on it, so therefore Rake is very good to start off on any of the fights. This is a single target rotation. Now you have 2 finishers, Ferocious Bite and you have Rip. Rip is a very good bleed effect that can be applied around 5 combo points preferably. Now, you're only going to apply this if you know that you're going to stay in the kitty form, because the funny part about it is that if you apply all of these nice Rake and Rip bleeds and you get out of your form to heal, those bleeds are going to deal 80% less damage because you went out of your kitty form. Therefore, you want to make sure when applying Rip that you're going to stay in kitty form for at least around 10 seconds to actually get the damage out of it. If you don't think you're gonna do it, cast Ferocious Bite. Now the funny part about Ferocious Bite is that Ferocious Bite will deal more damage the more energy you have, and it is recommended basically to use it at 50 energy. It's going to deal about 50% more damage. So we can see at the basic default single target rotation would be something like going into Prowl, going to the target, casting Rake. It's going to apply a big debuff onto it, casting Shred until 5 combo points. You can see my combo points are actually moving up. I have 5 combo points. I'm going to do Ferocious Bite. I'm waiting until I have 50%. I have 50%, and my Ferocious Bite critted for 3.3 million. Now, you want to go back to Rake again, go to Shred, up to 5 points, and I want to go Rip this time. And then you can just apply Rip and let it go, and let the target bleed. You don't want to go out into the healer form, because those bleeds are going to be dealing much less damage now. And that's your basic single target rotation. Now, if you want to do a more AoE, which is in Mythic Plus dungeons, there's going to be a lot of AoE packs. So it's very important to actually know what kind of AoE damage you want to do as a Restoration Druid. You want to actually kind of maintain Sunfire, and if you want, you can maintain Moonfire on a lot of targets as well. Sunfire is just a lot easier to apply if you actually have, specific legendaries. If you have specific legendaries for, let's say, Boomkin Shoulders, Lady in the Child. Lady in the Child, Moonfire deals 20% increased damage and also hits another nearby enemy within 20 yards of the target. So basically, if you have Lady in the Child, it's very good to actually apply Moonfire and Sunfire, and it's going to basically apply those dots to all enemies around, like in a close proximity. And then you want to go into the cat. You want to use AoE cat spells, and the only cat spell, AoE cat spell, is Swipe. So Swipe is actually going to be used on 2 targets and more. So there's actually 2 targets you want to start casting Swipe. Now it's also good to maintain things like Rake if you want, but it's the best to use Swipe for 2 targets, like I said. And you're going to build up combo points, and if you want, you can go Ferocious Bite at as much energy points as you can. Now the fun part is that you can run out of energy pretty quickly swiping. You can actually shift into bear form and cast swiping from bear form. You need to cast around twice, and then you can go back into the kitty form until your energy is fully recovered. Why do you do this is called kind of like a bear cleaving kind of thing. And why you want to do this is because shifting in and out of the bear form is not going to reset your auto hit. Basically, it's not going to reset your auto hit. So if you're in the middle of attacking as your bear and you shift, and if you're in the middle of attacking as your bear and you shift into your cat is going to be in the middle of attacking that target. So you're not really losing any DPS, and you're shifting with the bear to basically free swipes. Now it's better to go back into the kitty and keep going with the swipes, but you always have to make sure that the energy does not. Energy is the biggest constraint, and energy is basically affected by haste, while a lot of your bleeds are not really affected by haste, and crit and versatility are one of the best stats you can have for kitty DPS. Now, the biggest issue with DPSing as Resto Druid is making sure that other people, because like I said, you wanna be in your kitty form for as long as possible. So therefore, things like you need to pre-hot the whole party basically before going into a pack, making sure that you're not going to go out of your kitty form, making sure that you use a Potion of Prolonged Power at the start. Like I said, haste only basically affects your kitty's energy regeneration, how fast you can gain it and things like that, and global cooldown, while crit and versatility are one of the main stats for a kitty. If you want to go min-maxing, you can pick up add-ons where you can swap your gear on demand. Basically, that anytime you run out of combat, you can swap gear to, let's say, crit and versatility gear. Things like Arcano Crystal are very good, but you can swap out gear and then swap out specific trinkets. I'm going to link to 2 specific guides that are very good about this, and they're going to provide a much more in-depth guide on how to do this properly. But this has been a very small overview of how to do a very decent damage right now with a 25% buff to healers. You can honestly out DPS some DPS if you have the time. Of course, there are people who are going to mess up in the party, and you're going to have to go out and start healing them. At the end of the day, you're there to heal, but there's no reason why you can't provide a decent amount of damage, help you reach those better chests and things like that. So thank you for watching this little guide, and I'll see you in my next video.